So I actually did not want to make this video, but I just feel like I have to. So there was this podcast on Spotify called Redesigning Destiny, and basically I started that years ago, and I was just praying to the Father, and I was like, look, I want to spread the gospel, but I don't want to do it the way everybody else is doing it by having like a YouTube channel or, like I wanted it to be a different type of ministry. And it had to be something that I could do having a busy work schedule where I work 7 days a week. So when you work like that, when you get home and then you got to take care of things at home, dishes, laundry, cleaning, preparing for the next day, and you just basically all of the other things that everybody has to deal with. You know what I'm saying? I don't know the situation with a lot of people that have like podcasts or whatever, but I imagine that they do it full time because they're making money off of YouTube, right? And it's all monetary for them. It wasn't monetary for me. Like, I just wanted to share the gospel to as many people as possible with the limited resources that I have because I don't have money. So anyways, long story short, that podcast pretty much blew up, like thousands I think it was like 30 to 40,000 plays a month it was doing on Spotify. And, I basically was sharing just videos, from Rumble, YouTube, like wherever I could find anybody that was preaching the real gospel and the real truth, I was sharing it. And so it was almost like if we were playing football, you throw me the football, I'm making a touchdown. You know what I'm saying? And that's how I looked at it, because I was so busy that I couldn't create the content, but I could share the content. And that was my job in the body of Christ, to be a distributor, to get the message out there, And it went good for a long time, but October 2024, initially I started it on Anchor. Spotify bought out Anchor, and then once Spotify took control of it, they changed the app. They made it really difficult to basically work on the podcast. So like if you wanted to delete an episode or you wanted to make changes, it became a lot more difficult than when it was the Anchor app. Eventually, the content that I was sharing would get flagged, right? So people would start flagging it for copyright, which I kind of think is frowned upon, because I always think about Jesus flipping over the tables. People are worried about not making money and flagging it for copyright. Like, I get that, because I'm a music artist, right? So I've had people steal music from me, but this was before I was a Christian. You know what I mean? Like, now I'm a Christian. It's about getting the message out. So I'm not going to stop that, Before I was a Christian, I didn't understand that. So I thought from a worldly aspect, and I'm like, oh, that's copyright infringement or whatever. But when you really think of it, at the end of the day, nobody owns anything. Like, we don't even own our bodies. I mean, God gave us everything. And it's God's wish that none shall perish. So I would, thankfully, I would say probably 99% of the content that I shared, nobody tripped on it, because they knew it was sharing the gospel, and I always credited everything. You know what I mean? Like, even when I write books, my bibliographies, the citations in my book, they're sometimes it's the biggest chapter in my book. I mean, it's not a chapter, but it's the biggest section in my book, because I'm attributing credit to everyone that I borrowed from, to deliver the message, to deliver the gospel, and it's the same. Like if you're talking about the flat Earth, you can accredit NASA documents for that, where they're talking about a flat, non-rotating Earth, right? So that's the way that podcast was built. Like I made sure that every episode I posted, you knew where the episode was coming from. Like it would have the same title. It would have same exact title that it was posted under or by the original poster or the creator. And then in the description, it would have the source, YouTube, Rumble, but it would have the name of that channel. So all I was doing was sharing the content. And then if people wanted more, they knew where they could go to the original source to get more. Well, in October 2024, Spotify completely stopped me from uploading any episodes. So I thought that was the end of the podcast. I actually thought it was that they shut the channel down. And then a couple of days ago, Tony Merkel from Merkel Media sent me a cease and desist email threatening to sue me for $300,000 for 2 episodes that I shared of his. And mind you, these are people that claim to be Christians, but you don't really get like true conviction from these channels. You see what I'm saying? Like people that are really sharing the gospel, you're going to feel convicted because none of us are perfect. And all day, every day, we're making mistakes in our thinking and our actions, the way we treat other people. So all day long, we need to be going to the Father, asking for forgiveness, repenting, trying very hard not to do that same thing again, and getting right. Because when we don't, if you get cut on your arm and you don't treat that wound, what's going to happen? It's going to get infected, right? So every time you get a cut on your body, you have to address it. You have to clean out the wound, stitch it up. This is the same way that this works with our relationship with the Father. Because if not, you're going to be creating legalities for demonic attack. This is the way that the devil could put his hooks in you. Unrepentant sin. And there's a lot of channels. Like I like a channel called Midnight Hour Oil. But then there was another channel created called Midnight Oil, right? And she's promoting once saved, always saved doctrine. Same with Amber from Cloud9 Blessings, always promoting this lukewarm, complacent, once saved, always saved doctrine. All you have to do is believe and that's it. And they're like, your past, present, future sins are forgiven. Like, man, it's about a relationship with Yahuwah through Yahushua HaMashiach. That's what it's about. It's about a relationship. You don't get married to a woman and just be like, yeah, we're married. We sealed the deal at the ceremony when we got married. We got the paperwork. We're officially married. She loves me till death do us part. So I could cheat on her all I want. It doesn't matter. I don't need to ask for forgiveness. She already loves me. She already married me. The deal's sealed. No, man, that's silly. That's silly to even think that you could treat your relationship with our Creator that way. That's not the way it works. That's not the way it works. And no wonder you got to find a real chance. For one, you just need to read the Bible. But if sometimes, reading the Bible, you want to switch it up. Just like people don't want to eat the same food every day, right? But regardless, it's all coming from the Bible anyways. Tony Lamb is a good channel because Tony Lamb gets it. You know what I'm saying? Midnight Hour Oil, she gets it, but not Midnight Oil, right? So you have to understand, there's wheat and tares. The tares, what I think, the fallen angels left their first estate in heaven, saw that the women were fair, came down, mated with them, and the Nephilim giants were created. this DNA, the DNA, our original DNA has been corrupted. And there are sources saying that everybody has, you know, percentages of this corrupted DNA, right? Some more than others. But that's why we have to work out our salvation with fear and trembling. You know what I mean? Faith without works is dead. And all people are talking about, Dr. Barry All and all these people, they're just like, all you have to do is believe and you're good. I mean, if you want to gamble getting left behind, you want to gamble your eternity on that, you only have yourself to blame. Those who hate their life will keep it, and those who love their life will lose it. I hate my life. You know why I hate my life? Because it's so challenging being perfect as my Father in heaven is perfect. And that's what the Bible commands us to do. Be ye perfect like your Father in heaven is perfect. If you love me, you will obey my commandments. All things are possible through Christ which strengthen us. So all day, every day, it's about mental real estate. Yes, we're going to make mistakes. I get that. I make mistakes every day. I don't live a perfect life. But that doesn't mean that I don't stop trying to live in a way that honors the Father and the heavenly kingdom. That's why it says endure unto the end, because this is challenging. Because not only are we dealing with this all day long, but even when we go to sleep in the dream world, we're dealing with it. So it's a 24/7 fight. And it is very, very difficult. But that's why you have to fast. If you're not fasting, you're losing. You have to have a fasting schedule. And I used to think fasting till 2 o'clock every day, 3 o'clock every day, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock every day was sufficient. It was like 40%. And I'm telling you from experience. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can keep that fasting schedule, but you have to make sure that you're going, I would say, a minimum of 3 days without food. That's me personally. You know what I mean? And I recommend, you know, at least, you know, if you could fast 1 day a week, that would probably help. But ways that you can tell that you need to fast like that is when you get so irritable, like you start snapping out and acting out of character that's not representative. I mean, I've fasted before and backslid while fasting. I've backslid while fasting. I've snapped on people while I was fasting. I mean, you know, when you don't eat, yeah, you do get irritable, but you break through that. You know, after 2 days of fasting, you're, you know, on a physical level, there's things that happen in your brain. Your body starts to reacclimate. You know what I mean? But so anyways, long story short, because of Tony Merkel from Merkel Media trying to threaten to sue me for $300,000, the greedy little dude that he is, it made me so mad, man. Like I felt like if I seen him, I could have smacked him. You know what I mean? And I know that's not right. I had to repent, ask God to forgive me. You know what I'm saying? But it just seems like a little weasel move, like such a weaselly move from a so-called Christian. We have to remember here, the goal is leading souls to Christ by any means necessary, within the context of being a Christian, right? So it's not like his content is content that is like the self-denial YouTube channel where they're always talking about hell testimonies and Christians being in hell for unrepentant sin, right? It's not convicting like that. It's more of like, oh, we're talking about giants and, you know, reptilian shapeshifters and the government and this and that. And like all the cool topics that are associated with end times, right? Kind of like that. What's that one dude's name? The older white dude. I don't know, but he's got like a lot of those books and stuff out there about the Nephilim and Genesis 6 and stuff like that. The aliens and all those topics that are really interesting. But ultimately, when I share stuff like that, it's for the non-believers. Like I have a method. Like I'm fishing here. So I'm using different types of bait to get non-believers into the fold. You know, that's why it was only 2 episodes out of over 5,000 episodes that I posted on that podcast. Those are the type of topics that I could reel people in on. You know what I mean? Non-believers. Until I can get them to a point where they realize that they're sinners. They realize that they need forgiveness, and they realize that they need to change their way and live a holy, righteous lifestyle and work out their salvation with fear and trembling. We have to work out our salvation with fear and trembling. Anybody who tells you that it's just faith without works, they're lying to you. Faith without works is dead. It's dead faith. Dead faith does not get you anywhere. People need to be convicted. Remember, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. If they don't fear God, why are they're not going to change their ways? Because they don't think there's anything wrong with the way that they're living. Once people start realizing there's something wrong with the way that they think, the way that they act and interact with the world, the way that they live, their lifestyle, and they really start looking in the mirror, and then they can really start trying to address those issues. Because we've all been programmed since birth through the media and the entertainment industry. So yeah, I thought the Redesigning Destiny podcast was already shut down in October last year, but I officially did it thanks to Tony Merkel from Merkel Media pulling the weasel move, because I guess he feels his episodes are worth $150,000 each. So for 2 episodes, he's threatening to sue me for $300,000, which he would never get. And I told him in the email, you'll never get it because I don't have it. It'll never happen, you know. But I told God, you know what? You know, no liars or thieves will enter heaven. And even though I had good intentions, I was sharing this content to lead souls to Christ. I'll crash this whole ministry. I'll destroy this whole ministry, because the whole ministry was built on sharing other people's content. But in this world, you know, from a worldly perspective, it's theft. And I agree if you're looking at it from a worldly point of view. But I'm walking in the spirit. And I'm like, we need to get this message out. I don't have enough time to create the content. I just need to share the correct content. And everybody shares stuff all the time. Or there wouldn't be a share button on YouTube. There wouldn't be share buttons on Facebook, right? These content creators that run these YouTube channels, that's how their channels are built, by people sharing it. But Tony the Weasel Merkel, because that was a weasel move, decided that he wanted to send a cease and desist letter to me. So, and I couldn't tell you how many people hit me up about that podcast, like, oh, I'm a publicist, I want to represent you. And I never responded to none of it. I'm just like, it's not my content. I'm just sharing it. If you like a certain episode, you need to contact the content creator that's listed in the description. That's it. I'm just sharing people's content. Yes, I posted episodes with just me talking on there like I'm doing now, you know, but I just don't have enough time to do this full time, because I have to work to pay my bills. And there's not an easy transition to doing that. You know, I write books. I run a Christian clothing website. I'm busy. I make Christian music. Like my time is filled with kingdom work. So that's what happened to the Redesigning Destiny podcast. Thank you, Tony Merkel, for being worldly and all about the money. And Peace.